All right, so move on to the next segment. We're going to pivot over here to the world of MMA inside the UFC world. And in this next segment, I will be sharing my 2026 predictions of which UFC male fighters end the year as champions in their respective divisions. So we got 12 months of MMA, UFC coming at us. These are the following champions that I'm predicting will close out the year 11 months from now as champions in their respective divisions. So we'll start at flyweight and go all the way up to the heavyweight division. So at flyweight, I'm going to go with the veteran guy. I'm going to still say Alexandre Pantoja reclaims the flyweight championship and leaves the year 2026 as champion. Now, unfortunately, the last time we seen Alexandre Pantoja in the octagon was a month ago when he fought Joshua Van and was trying to defend his flyweight championship very early in the fight against Joshua Van. Unfortunately suffered a dislocated shoulder in the first round and the fight ended. And I'm surprised that did not end in a no contest with Alexandre Pantoja retaining the title. And honestly, ended in a TKO, technical knockout, with Joshua Van becoming the new flyweight champion. So it looks like Alexandre Pantoja, this is going to take him at least 4 to 6 months to recover. So we probably won't see him back in the octagon probably until late spring, early summer, in my prediction. So the division looks like, skill-wise, it's finally catching up to Alexandre Pantoja. But I do believe he'll go 2-0 this year in 2026. I don't think he's going to get an immediate title rematch against Joshua Van. They'll probably give him, I don't want to say a tune-up because there's really no such thing as tune-ups in the UFC, but they'll give him a fight to still see if he still got it. And then he'll fight whoever is the flyweight champion by the end of 2026 to reclaim the title that rightfully he should have never lost based on how the fight ended the last time we saw him in the octagon. So I think Alexandre Pantoja closes out the year 2026 flyweight champion. All right, let's go to the bantamweight division. Bantamweight champion to close out 2026, I'm going to go with Umar. Now, I think Umar is going to close out 2026 as the bantamweight champion. Whenever he gets his hands on the title, we'll see in 2026, but he's going to close out the year as champion at bantamweight. And I think he's the real deal at this division. He's currently 19-1 in his MMA career. That one loss he suffered against Merab earlier on in the calendar year 2025. And that was a really close fight because you could say in the beginning part of the fight, he was winning that fight against Merab. But Merab with that relentless cardio, that relentless wrestling style, that relentless offensive pressure got the better of Umar, and Merab edged it out 3-2. And I think as clutch as Merab's, clutch and legendary as Merab's UFC bantamweight title run just was, I think Umar was the toughest fight that Merab had in his bantamweight championship run. So I think Umar can do what he has to do in order to get in position to get a title shot. I think he should target the winner of Sean O'Malley and Song Yodong when they fight each other in the end of January. I think Umar should go after the winner of that fight and let Peter Yan and Merab have their respective trilogy for the bantamweight championship in the beginning part of 2026. And then Umar fights the winner because I think he can get past Sean O'Malley or Song Yodong. Umar fights the winner of the trilogy between Peter Yan and Merab. And I think Umar can beat either Peter Yan or Merab because he has the striking skills, the cardiovascular endurance, the good wrestling, grappling skills, and has one of the best coaches, in my opinion, cornering him to help him become a world champion. That's his cousin Khabib, who is one of, if not the greatest lightweight champion in UFC history. So I believe he will close out the calendar year 2026. This will be a good year for Umar as he becomes a world champion for the first time in the UFC. Now, featherweight, I had to think about this one because featherweight, we've seen some changes of guys moving up like Ilia Tuporia and Max Holloway. Featherweight, I'm going to go with Movsar Elov. Movsar Elov. I'm sorry. It's a little hard to pronounce some of these names. But Movsar Elov, I'm going to go with him. He's 19-0 in his MMA career. Currently the #1 ranked contender right now in this featherweight division. So I think he's definitely going to get a shot and should be well-deserved by the end of 2026 to earn a shot at getting a featherweight championship title match. But in the end, he did not. In the end of 2025, as we entered 26, he didn't fight one time this year, unfortunately, and he missed the whole entire year of 2025 due to an injury. But I still think he deserves a shot because he's a #1 ranked contender at this division. And matches, I think Movsar matches up well against the champion right now, Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopez, Yair Rodriguez, Aljamain Sterling. I think honestly he might not get a title chance, even though I just said he might end the year. That's my prediction. I'm still sticking by it. But if you think about it, he might not even get a title shot, only because the UFC, you can tell Dana White hates the fact when a boring grappler or not a fan favorite that doesn't communicate well or a non-talker holds a title. He hates it. Like, if you guys remember when Magomed Ankalaev defeated Alex Pereira, his boy Alex Pereira, last year for the light heavyweight title, like, he was sick giving the title to Magomed Ankalaev because he's not a fan favorite. He's a grappler and a non-talker. And you can tell Dana White does not like that. But it's the name of the game. You just got to give your best fighters opportunities. So I could see where he's coming from. And by any means, I'm not discriminating at where any UFC or MMA fighters come from, because I'm an American. And right now we don't have an American male champion. That just proves how loaded the landscape is around the world of mixed martial arts. But I can get Dana White's point of not wanting to give him a title shot because he's a non-talker. He's a non-talker or a boring grappler to some. But I do believe he will close out 2026 as the featherweight champion. Now let's move on to lightweight. Lightweight, I'm going to go with Ilia Topuria. I think Ilia Topuria will close out the year of 2026 as the lightweight champion. Now, once he takes care of everything, family business outside the octagon, I hope everything goes well for him. But once he settles that business outside the octagon, he will make his return at some point to the UFC in 2026. Now, what we're getting at lightweight right now, at the end of January, we'll see Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje fight for the interim lightweight title. And Dana White has already said the winner of this fight, that will be the interim lightweight champion, will fight Ilia Topuria next for a lightweight championship fight, an opportunity to get the title from the champion. Now, that's setting up possibly for a summer lightweight title fight. I think whoever wins that fight between Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje, Ilia Topuria knocks either one of those guys out, wins the fight by knockout, or we finally see Ilia Topuria tap into his grappling bag against a strong opponent and forces one of those guys to submit in the octagon. So I think Ilia Topuria is going to have a good year at lightweight. Now, if we get that in the summer of title defense from him, then what do you do with him in the back end of 2026? Now, the $1 million question is, does he move up to welterweight to fight Islam Makhachev by the end of the year? I'm going to say no, only because the welterweight division is just too stacked right now for Dana White and the rest of the UFC executives should just move up Ilia Topuria after one title defense at lightweight just to get a big money fight against Islam Makhachev for the welterweight title possibly by the end of the year. I just don't think that happens, and I think Ilia Topuria has to stay put at lightweight to fight another guy that's worthy of a title opportunity. That's Arman Tsarukyan. So I think Ilia Topuria will either defeat Paddy Pimblett or Justin Gaethje by knockout or submission and his first title defense back, and by the end of the year, he defeats Arman Tsarukyan to retain his lightweight title. Then we possibly have discussions with him moving up to welterweight to fight Islam Makhachev in 2027 for a welterweight title opportunity. So I think that's what's going to happen at lightweight, but I think Ilia Topuria closes out the year as lightweight champion. Now, let's move up to welterweight. Welterweight, this could be one of my favorite divisions to follow all year long, and I think this is the best division the UFC has to offer today. I'm going to go with Islam Makhachev to close out the year as champion. Now, I think Islam Makhachev could win Fighter of the Year this year in 2026 if he goes 2-0 or possibly 3-0. It depends on how active Islam Makhachev wants to be in 2026. But this division is stacked from top to bottom. I think the welterweight division is clearly the best division that the UFC has to offer today. We got some outstanding names here. Islam Makhachev, pound for pound, the best that the UFC has to offer today as the reigning defending welterweight champion. You have the former champion JDM. You have the forgotten man, Shavkat Rakhmonov, that unfortunately missed all of 2025 due to an injury. Ian Gary, Michael Morales, Kamar Usman, Carlos Pratis, and Sean Brady. Like, this division is stacked from top to bottom. And I believe Islam Makhachev will fight Michael Morales. He did knock out Sean Brady early on that card of Islam Makhachev versus JDM that took place at Madison Square Garden, one of the final UFC pay-per-view events to close out the year. I think that's a fun fight between Islam Makhachev and Michael Morales, but with the grappling skills, I think Islam Makhachev can defeat him, or he could possibly fight, once he gets past Michael Morales, he will fight possibly Ian Gary or Shavkat Rakhmonov in the second half of 2026. Now, I think Islam can defeat Ian Gary, possibly submit him, but Shavkat Rakhmonov, oh, if they match up against each other, I can't wait to cover that for you guys. But I think Islam Makhachev, I would have to lean more towards him to defeat Shavkat Rakhmonov right now. But I think that leaves Islam Makhachev as the welterweight champion to close out the 2026 year for my prediction. And then we get Ilia Topuria, who I just said a few moments ago will have 2 successful title defenses at lightweight, who'll move up to welterweight in 2027. Then we'll get that mega fight between Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria, 2 top 3 pound-for-pound stars that the UFC has to offer today. That's my prediction. We'll see if that happens. Middleweight, see, I think this division honestly is going to be boring. Middleweight, I'm going to go with DDP to reclaim the title. Now, we got Khamzat Chimaev as the champion right now, but my prediction is going to be that Khamzat Chimaev will defend the title springtime and has 1 title defense at middleweight. I don't want to ever wish this on anybody, but I think Khamzat Chimaev is going to vacate the title either 2 ways. One, he's just going to tell everybody, I can't make the weight at 185 anymore, and I'm moving up the light heavyweight. Then we have different conversations with him at that division. Or he honestly vacates the title due to injury. Now, again, I'm not wishing this on anybody, but unfortunately, as good as Khamzat Chimaev is, he does have a wishy-washy track record of being a dependable fighter for UFC fans to invest in yearly, because we only get 1 performance out of him per year. 2023 only fought Kamar Usman 1 time that year. 2024 only fought 1 time that year, fought Robert Whittaker. 2025 only fought DDP 1 time this year, or last year. So I think if that happens, DDP possibly fights someone within the top 5 twice this year. And I think the second time he fights somebody for the vacant middleweight championship and finishes the year as the middleweight champion. It's a bold prediction, but I don't think there's anything really special at this middleweight division to make Khamzat Chimaev stay put very long at this division. Oh, light heavyweight champion, we're almost there. Light heavyweight champion, I'm going to go with Yuri Prochazka. Yuri Prochazka, I do believe Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev have their trilogy fight for the light heavyweight championship. I think Alex Pereira wins the trilogy and then vacates the light heavyweight championship and then moves to the heavyweight division. So then that leaves the title vacant, and I think Yuri Prochazka fights 2 times this year, goes 2-0, and will fight someone within the top 5 to fight for the vacant title and reclaims the title that he truthfully never lost. Because you guys go back 3.5 years ago, he won the title, but then unfortunately had to vacate it due to injury. So I think that's my prediction for light heavyweight. And then heavyweight, we'll go with Alex Pereira. Heavyweight, we'll go with Alex Pereira. I think Alex Pereira will close out 2026 as the heavyweight champion. Will become the first ever 3-division world champion in UFC history. Now, I do believe that Alex Pereira could fight. Now, let's go back to my point. I said Alex Pereira will be forced to fight Magomed Ankalaev in a trilogy for the light heavyweight championship. He retains the title and then vacates the title to move up to heavyweight. I think Alex Pereira will fight the winner of Tom Aspinall and Ciryl Gane whenever those 2 respective heavyweights fight again, following the drama of the Tom Aspinall eye injury with the eye poke that happened at the end of the year. But even if it's not Tom Aspinall, he doesn't come back for a long period of time, I think Alex Pereira still moves up to the heavyweight division and fights Ciryl Gane for the vacant heavyweight championship. But either way, I think Alex Pereira fights either one of those guys. and wins the heavyweight championship, knocking out either Tom Aspinall or Ciryl Gane to become the first ever 3-division champion in UFC history. But that was long, but here we are. Those are my predictions of which UFC male fighters will end the year as champion in their respective divisions this year in the calendar year 2026 in the UFC.